Great afternoon. Happy and blessed Wednesday. It's actually evening. I keep saying afternoon because I'm used to doing this in the evening, but now I do my podcast, or I'm used to doing it in the afternoon, but now I do my podcast in the evening. And for anyone who is new here, welcome. My name is Catherine Barnett, and I go by Cat Barnett, and this is the Cat Barnett Podcast, episode 96. Crazy. So blessed. And I also help women who struggle with confidence in their faith and fitness, develop strategies and systems that lead them to gain clarity, direction, and purpose so that they can be fulfilled as they walk in their calling faithfully. And I'm blessed to just do this each and every week and walk in my calling and my purpose. And I missed you guys, whoever tune in faithfully or on the replay. I could not be present here last Wednesday. I actually had a procedure slash surgery done that was, thank God, needed but very successful. And so even now, I'm just been resting, healing, and just getting better and uh, just working on staying focused, even in the storms. And, this episode isn't about storms, but in life, and if you don't know, we're jumping right into this because, this um, episode, as you see, it's make a decision because so many of us are living in entrapped in our minds because we are not making a decision. We're not decisive. We're so indecisive and can't even make a game plan or a strategy. So I decided to really make this episode to encourage really myself, but anyone else, if it's one person out there who needs this as well, because for so long, I feel like I've known that I can take it to the next level. I know that there's more in me for whatever that is, for business, to be a better daughter, to be a better sister, to be a better woman overall, who God created me to be. And I feel like for so long, sometimes I would be confident, and but then I would fall back into sometimes self doubt, which it was all coming from the devil, because I'm very a woman of God and biblical. So I truly believe the devil sometimes would attack me and in my mind because my mind sometimes wasn't always mentally tough, because it's a muscle, it's a skill you have to every day, daily work on your mind to strengthen that muscle, if you will. So that's what I began doing. And I thank God, I continue to thank Him for growth because without it, I wouldn't be the woman here before y'all today. So, but I'm constantly seeking that growth, a student of life. And, I'm human, I make mistakes as well, but every day I'm just trying to be better than I was yesterday. And God has guided me through that. So, for today's episode, I was just inspired because I just came back yesterday, safely, thank God, from Colorado. That was my second time being in Colorado. So, and for those who don't know or are new watching my podcast, I'm a small town girl from Fort Wayne, Indiana, the second largest city in Indiana, but our population is only 277,000, a little over that. And so we're under 300,000. So we're not technically considered, depending who you're talking to, a big city, or state even. So uh, I was just at a business conference, and just sharpening my mind, being around other individuals who are like-minded, just want more out of life, more growth, more freedom, more time. And so we were just, sharpening our axes and being around other, believers and ambitious, like-minded individuals is something powerful about that. So I always recommend and encourage community, as you guys know. So yeah, just being at away for 3-4 days at this event, and learning, taking it all in, it made me decide then and there that I want to make a decision and take action and take control of my own life. Like I decided that this weekend, and I'm doing the steps now. I'm in motion for that. Um, and I think it's hard to do at times to make a decision and take action and move forward, because to move forward, you have to make a decision and then act on them. And any progress you make is the result of your decisions followed by appropriate actions. And some people, find it difficult to make decisions. Even me, I'm guilty of sometimes being indecisive, but I've learned that leaders make, uh, you know, big decisions quickly, and small decisions kind of slowly. So and it happens at big events as well to make those decisions. So um but I know that some people find it difficult to make decisions and they put it off and procrastinate, usually because they are afraid of making mistakes or looking silly in front of their peers or friends. And others will make a decision but not follow through with action. I also have been guilty of this in the past, and also know people that are currently even struggling with this, quite frankly. And so I believe that saying you'll do something without taking action is just a wish. It's just wishful thinking, you guys. And because you might feel good for a while or in the moment, but a week later or a month, nothing has changed and you haven't made any progress. You're just all talk, but not walking the walk as well. And a quote that I came across is, they always say time changes things, but you actually have to change them yourself. And another thing that ties into that is nothing changes if nothing changes. If you want something different in your life, you have to do something differently in your life to have that happen. So, making a decision and taking action breaks the cycle of overthinking, shifting you from a state of paralysis into momentum. And throughout this episode, just please let me know if you guys are getting any value. If you're watching live, let me know if you're watching live. And if you're watching the replay, comment replay, and just hit that like and follow, prescribe, or not prescribe, subscribe to my YouTube channel, please and thank you. And just going off of some key positives, when you make a decision and decide to take action, it builds momentum. And if that's in your business, in your goals, your dreams, because action builds its own energy. Completing small tasks creates psychological in your brain wins that motivates you to tackle bigger challenges. So I always tell people, don't bite off more than you can chew. It's small, actionable steps consistently is going to help you over time tackle those bigger challenges. Number two is when you make a decision and decide to take action, you gain more clarity. And that's what we need in life, because so many people stay stuck because they don't have that clarity. Because it is easier to adjust your course once you are moving and in motion, because action provides immediate real world feedback that abstract thought cannot replicate. So, also a big one is growth. Stepping up to make a choice builds resilience and self trust in yourself, regardless of whether the immediate outcome is a success or just a lesson. Even if it didn't go the way you planned, take the positives and see the silver lining in it. At least you tried. At least you showed up for yourself. At least you didn't quit. Even if you failed, sometimes it's trial and error. Get back up and try again. That's going to help with that growth. And then the last one, are key benefits, before I switch it in a different gear of making a decision and taking action, is control. Like I talked about, deciding, making a decision, to take control of your own life and your freedom. Deciding puts you in the driver's seat of your own life, and it helps you stop you from becoming a passive observer or just a fan in your own life. Get in the game of your own life, take action. And I'm just so fired up right now, y'all, man, because it's time to make a decision and then act. Make a decision, then act, because everyone makes decisions in different ways. But what's equally important is that you follow up with action. Another quote that I've seen is that sometimes you have to take massive action, for in order to change your situation. When I was at this business conference this past weekend, a couple things we talked about that stuck with me is, in life and business, sometimes you are hunting, and farming. And I can get into that on a deeper level on a different podcast episode, but just a quick synopsis or what those entail is hunting. Sometimes you have to go quick. Sometimes you have to make a decision quick and then take massive action quickly. And then sometimes on the other end, farming, you're just planting the seeds, right? You may have a big idea or project or product that you're sharing with people, and sometimes you're just planting those seeds, because not everyone will always see your vision or see what you see. And you have to be okay with that. Sometimes you're going to get a lot of no's before you get some yeses. But once you get one yes, sometimes one yes can change the whole trajectory of your life. Just on a side note, no's are only leading you up to those yeses. So real quick, so I want to I want to have you guys, if you're taking notes, this is a note rich podcast episode today. So I want to give you guys kind of a checklist. Actually, not kind of, it is a 10 step checklist of when you make a decision and then act. So the first step, and it works for me, so hopefully this can work for you. So the first step is get it out of your head and in writing, because once you get it out of your head and in writing, it becomes real. It becomes a goal. It becomes a vision to work towards, because once it's not in writing, like I said, it's just a wishful thinking and it's not really real, really. Number two is define your big goal. Ask yourself, what is it you want to achieve? And then write it out in as much detail as you can, or as that you would like. Number three is break it down into the steps you have to take to reach that goal. This is ultimately your checklist in the first place. Like, why are you doing this in the first place? Number four is put your steps into a logical order. What should you do first? And then what should you do second? And there on from there. Sometimes I think people get caught up, or don't even really take action because they get overwhelmed, because they don't break it down in smaller steps, and then they don't decide what should they do first. What tasks should they tackle first? And then on from there, they just got all these tasks in their head, and then they get overwhelmed and then don't take any action in the first at all to begin with. And then it's not even, they just stay stuck. Number five, so create a timeline for your checklist. hold yourself accountable. I think it's always good to have a community that can hold yourself accountable, or an accountability partner if you got similar goals as someone, or your friend, or a business partner. Because once you have that accountability, uh, things change because you follow through, or you decide to take action regardless of how you feel, regardless of motivation. And once you can get to a place where you can decide in your mind to take action, and sometimes massive action, regardless of how you feel, things open up, things get really fun in life. Number six, and this is kind of going back and doing step number one. And if you don't remember what this step number one was, it is get it out of your head and in writing, and then make the decision and then act, is what also I would add on to number six. Number seven is then evaluate it. Evaluate your goals, evaluate your dreams, evaluate the game plan. Did you get the results you expected when you feel like you reached the finish line of that goal, or that you completed a project? If not, it's okay. Give yourself grace, and then adjust the following steps where necessary. Sometimes in life, I said on a previous podcast, when it was labeled expect the unexpected. Sometimes in life is going to throw you roller coasters. It's going to be a roller coaster, up and down, side to side. Sometimes you want to puke. Sometimes you're having the time of your life. Yay, screaming at the top of your lungs. And then sometimes, if we're talking about baseball, life is going to throw you curveballs. It's going to throw you strikes. It's going to throw you all types of different balls that sometimes you'll swing and hit it out of the park and it's a home run. And sometimes you're going to strike out in life, but you can get back up and try again, and keep going till you get that home run and knock it out of the park. I evaluate what sticks with me is sports analogies, because I'm a sports girly. So if you're not into sports, you might not know what I'm talking about. This might be going over your head, and that's okay, because I'm not talking to everybody on this episode. I'm just talking to the few that know what I mean, and in our, quite frankly, in my market, in my niche. Um, so let's move on. Number 8. What's that step? Then we move on to step number 2. If you remember, step number 2 was define your big goal, or even if it's a small goal, and then ask yourself these questions. Or even one question: what is it that you want to achieve out of this? Ultimately, what is your why? Why are you doing it in the first place? And then write it out in as much detail as you can. Number 9, which I love, is keep going. This isn't easy. Making a decision is not easy, especially when it's a big decision. So make a decision, act, adjust / pivot, and then make the next decision, and then keep that going. Keep going, make a decision, act, adjust, pivot, then make the next decision. And number 10 is stick to your timeline as much as possible. Like, I give myself grace on things, but you have to make a date. You have to have a deadline, because if you don't, then you're just going to keep going through the motions. And sometimes you have to go fast. Fast is fun, slow sucks at times. And then sometimes, it is going to be the tortoise versus the hare. Sometimes slow and steady wins the race. So you have to, like I said, know when you're in hunting season, and then know when you're in farming season. And I'll go over in detail. I think God put that on my heart to go into detail what those are next episode. So I'll go into detail what hunting and farming is for next episode. And then number 10, before I add on to, make a decision and then act. Number 10 is stick, or I already said it, so we're done with that. But number 2 on my point is, I think this is why I was kind of hurrying to get to this is, get over fear. Most decisions can be undone. And I think what stops a lot of people is that fear, is just that uncomfortability. And so get comfortable making decisions quickly. Sometimes what stops people, or when people talk to me, and even I've been guilty of saying this at times when I'm making excuses, quite frankly, is, I don't have all the information I need to make that decision. I don't have the um, money I need to financially make that decision. I have to do more research, while I'm already doing the research, and that's why I'm stuck in the first place. And I know some people can relate to that. So I think the bottom line, like, here's the truth, guys. You'll rarely ever have all the information you'll need. So you have to get used to making decisions based on the information that you have sometimes. And then you go and learn as you go, because one of two things will happen. Number one, you will get more information as you make decisions and move ahead. Or number two, once you've made a decision and you've taken action to move to the next step, you realize you don't need the information anymore. You can just take action and keep going. And that builds that momentum, that clarity, that growth that I was talking about earlier. So many times when people say, I need more information, it's just an excuse, and it's just procrastination, because it's a way of putting it off and justifying to yourself why you can't move ahead. And I hope, I'm speaking out of love, but this is the truth. These are facts, and that leads me to number 3 points is, when you make a decision and act. Because leaders, if you want to be a leader, if you're aspiring to be a leader and lead teams, or lead people in business, leaders make decisions. Real leaders make decisions. So if you are ever, or if you have ever worked for someone who procrastinates or changes their mind frequently, or are very indecisive, you know how crippling that can be and just frustrating. So, an indecisive leader means everyone is waiting and frozen in place until there's a decision made by that leader or those leaders. So, this is true even if it's just you leading yourself to do things. So, I say this out of love, but anybody listening to my voice, until you decide, you're going to stay stuck. Until you can make a decision and act on it, you are going to stay stuck. So I advise you to make a decision and act quickly. Sometimes you have to make a decision and just take massive action, and don't worry about failing, or don't worry about how it's going to end up or how it's going to be, and just have that faith and take action. Because personal decision making is going to ultimately help you achieve your dreams and goals when you can quickly make decisions and act frequently and quickly. So I hope this helped when it comes to making this decision and then acting. If not, if you didn't catch the full episode, please go back and watch it, and watch the replay on my YouTube channel. And um, I am even going to, if I have it right here, yes, I do. I have a calendar link to a Calendly to a one-on-one just breakthrough call with me, because I'm in the process of, we're in the second quarter, we're even about to start the third quarter soon here, and I'm in the process of, we need to continue to take action and not be stagnant. So I'm going to have a free masterclass soon coming up. Don't have a date yet in process, but I'm working on it where we're gonna take it to the next level. So that is my Calendly link that I posted. So if you want to hear any other topics that you just want me to go over, or that you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me, or slide in my DMs if you feel more comfortable doing that. But yeah, I mean, the road to success is sometimes, making a decision and then taking sometimes massive action. And with that faith, yes, that leap of faith. So I hope you guys got value from this episode. And it was kind of longer than usual, but I believe worth it. So God bless you guys. Peace, love, and blessings. And I will see you guys back next Wednesday at 8 p.m. for another fun-filled episode. All right. Peace.